Hello and welcome. It is your weekly program that has always been concerned with the virtual gathering. That is, the gathering that occurs on air and online. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Thanks for your time. Having left St. George, we have now come to the East St. Philip, where the people of this parish will now be given an opportunity to share their stories and so enrich the lives of all of us. We left St. George with Desmond Critchlow taking us into St. Jude's, Superlative, Prerogative, and surrounding communities. We also heard from Lincoln Crawford. He shared his memories of Ellerton. We begin our journey in St. Philip on a spot not widely known, Ramgoat Hill. Where in St. Philip is Ramgoat Hill, you might ask? Well, it is all part of that community that gave passage to the massive gun that entered Barbados in the early 1960s and placed this island on the world stage in ways never understood by most of us. Ramgoat Hill affords panoramic views of sections of the island. Ivan Burke, who spoke to us about other expeditions on Foul Bay, begins the discussion here. There is rivalry between Ivan Burke and his very good friend who hails from the north of the island. We will not get between the two of them. We will merely allow Ivan to have his say on this occasion.
I want to share my community, Foul Bay District, on behalf of my residents to the rest of Barbados. But I have to nudge a good friend of mine from River Bay, Sergeant Siebert Johnson. You speak about your bay, I'm going to speak about my beach, our beach. Listen to the name, River Bay, Archers Bay. Well, listen to my names, Crane Bay Beach, Foul Bay Beach. The emphasis here is on beach. River Bay will never carry boats, and the sort of bath that you will get at Foul Bay and Crane Bay Beach, you will not get at River Bay. No, it is F-O-U-L, foul, but we are not foul. We are only foul when we get the CV, so that's the only time we are foul, Seabird. Don't mind the spelling. Don't mind the spelling. We are fresh, as the breeze right now could tell you. You breathe in your lungs. It's fresh, straight off the ocean. Straight off the ocean. Now, our beach carries, or we had at one time, fishing boats that you had to haul up and shove down. Listen to my words, haul up and shove down. And you use rollers, skids, and a slip board with 2 tires to do that. Otherwise, you will not get the move. That is one I got by a seabird. You never had boats. Secondly, we have the Spring Rock at Foul Bay. I'm not sure you have one of those. Thirdly, there's 120 steps, which might be 124 now, I think. And this one where we are standing, there's only one in Barbados, Ramgoat Hill. Seabird, Ramgoat Hill. That's the 4 nudges I had for you. I enjoy your program. I'm going to give you mine.
So much for the rivalry between these two gentlemen. Surprisingly, the vista seen from Ramgoat Hill is beautiful. It is a view which one would not ordinarily expect to enjoy from this parish of St. Philip because of its topography. Who would have thought that from this point of vantage you would be able to see?
If the cameraman would take it and spin his camera from that angle, you will stand and see all of St. George Valley. All of the St. George Valley, the hills in St. Thomas, rising back to District C Hill, where the land falls off into St. John, all part of St. John you will see, back in, right around to Sam Lawrence Castle, back in the Crane, back into Foul Bay. So this is our mountain in Foul Bay, Ramgoat Hill. Also on this hill, there was a gentleman named Worst Boy. or we call him so, and they say that he got his name from, there was a fight, and he said, I gonna make this fight worse. So that's taken off on him, worse boy. Worse. I think his right name was Rogers though. Now, back at the back of the camera, there's a very historical cricket ground, Victoria. Teston Payne, that played cricket for the West Indies, played his cricket there. Horace Franklin, that played for Barbados, played his cricket there. We had some hard-hitting batsmen like Kenneth D'Souza, that died a couple of years, well, not a couple of years, a lot of years ago. Elliot Tudor, Terry Laria, Cool Smoke, Packer Harris, Blues, the Greenwich boys, Louis and O'Neill, the Laria boys, Sylvan and Richard, that live in that direction. We have put out some Cameron Barra, Pierce Border from Harlington. So we have had some good cricketers at Victoria Ground, right behind the two Ramshots, surprisingly. And in that direction of the cricket ground, they had a Manchester tree, that was a pavilion for one Ramshot, and a Clementine tree in the yard of this Ramshot. So you had a gathering here, and you had a gathering there. And you could imagine drinks that being packed down. Because let me tell you, on Saturdays and Sundays, there was no activity. So people from all around the district that was cricket lovers, Crane, races, you name it, we gathered at Victoria Cricket Ground to watch sometime a test match between Victor and Queen's Park, Kings Park, or Six Roads, or Shannon.
When the average Barbadian thinks of Foul Bay, they consider the actual bay, the beach, and not necessarily the district. Berkey's discussion takes into account some of the work-related activities that occurred on the beach and went all the way into the community.
Back to the main topic. This is Foul Bay District, but it's enclosed by Crane. As you can see, the Crane Hotel. In the distance, you will see Sam Lawrence Castle. You have Crane, Rice's, Lower Curtains, Headings, St. Martin's, and a part of Gemswick, or what we know grew up as Penny Hole, back to the sea line. So it is enclosed district. If you come to this district years ago, you had to be coming at somebody in Foul Bay. Now I want to go back to Rice's and Foul Bay because they intertwine, because they were rather close as a district, because people that made their living from Foul Bay Beach as vendors, like Gwen Bascom, which we know as Mickard, Darcus Laria, Elsie Bledman, Elsie Doughty, two sisters, Mert and Missy, that would ride on a bicycle with a tree on their head with hundreds of flying fish in it, all down 4 roads and all about to sell. You had Marty and his sister. You had Ying that lived in that area. All those were vendors that moved fish from Foul Bay Beach to further up districts. So Mert, Missy, and Gwen Bascom, they all live in Rice's. But you have to intertwine that because they made their living from Foul Bay Beach. Now you had fishermen like Theophilus that died a couple of years ago, big fisherman at Foul Bay, captain in the Me Too. I mentioned that boat before. Mr. Bertram Doughty, he was the owner of the Me Too, the Vibrants, and then you had which was a wooden boat, and then you had the Vibert Swan 2 and 3, which are fiberglass boats, and he lived just beyond the hill. You had Tonksy, you had Fodger, which is Kenrick, you had Georgie, you had Mervyn Fields, you had Brazil that used to fish with Theophilus. But those are people that fish at Foul Bay Beach, that landed fish there so that the vendors could, so they make their living from fishing at Foul Bay Beach as well. And some of those guys were hard sea egg divers as well. I mentioned sea egg boats before. Those guys were hard sea egg divers, so that was the money-making thing within Foul Bay.
One aspect of the commercial activity that started on the beach and expanded into the community. What about the actual community of Foul Bay? What existed here as it related to businesses and religious assemblies?
We never had supermarkets, we never had dance halls, we never had community places within Foul Bay. The closest thing we had to a church in Foul Bay is a building over there by the Bradfords own that they call Long Sleeve Religion. They really hear natural and blah, 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 blah. We never had churches in Foul Bay. And so where is a rum shop, you'll find a church. Not in Foul Bay. And we had 2 rum shops side by side. And a variety store, a variety shop, not a store, a variety shop. The Wee Wee Shop. The Wee Wee Shop, don't laugh. And you could get from a button to a fish hook. You get thread to a fish line. You get your goods as usual, your rice, your peas, your flour, your meal, your salt, your kerosene oil. Cause I used to go and pump. She had a tank outside that the truck would bring the kerosene oil, put in it. Then she had one on the side, but then you had a pump. They had to pump the kerosene oil from that one to that one. And she would measure in pots. A gallon pot, half gallon pot, 2 pints, a pint, maybe a jill.
Speaking about village shops, there are some who might recall those experiences of having to traverse this area as they made their way to and from the Wee Wee Shop.
They had a man that had a shop there named Bobby, but he went overseas and the house went to ruin and the bush grew all around it. And if your mother sent for kerosene oil at Mr. Wee Wee Shop, you will run from here till you get to the Wee Wee Shop because you gotta go through Bobby bush. The bush on this side and these bush still here on the left. All this was known as Bobby bush. It was a frightening place to go at the shop when the sun go down. But we never had churches. 2 rum shops and a variety store. But I must mention, all of this was corn and nut ground. Corn and nut ground. Foul Bay was a place that you could come and, hawkers would come and buy corn, guinea corn, the one that you make, that you pound, you ground, and you make flour to make jug, Christmas jug. The Indian corn was the one that you roast, you ground to make conkeys. There's difference. There's a difference. Foul Bay was a corn and nut ground, potatoes, and vegetables. Scarcely cane. The only body could recall having cane in Foul Bay was my old man, because he used to work at 4 Square. So he would get the cuttings. And believe it or not, he would walk from Foul Bay to 4 Square every day because he couldn't drive and he couldn't ride. And he died at 92 and 3, fit with no causes. No cause, no blood pressure, no sugar, no, because he was fit. He was a fit person. And he eat this amount. Trust me. He eat this amount. Press, man. Eric Prescott was his name. They call him Press. And at work, they would call him Army. That was a nickname for him at 4 Square Factory. There was a gentleman lived over there by the name of Lyle Edward Prescott. He was our main chef in Foul Bay. I gather he used to work at sea, and then he came home and he worked at Stonehaven. It's a little hotel before you get to the crane, up in a little corner by itself. And anybody would tell when they eat food from LEP, Lily as a nickname, you had a good meal, a proper meal, a meal that would last you for 2 weeks. Trust me on that one, because I ate some, and we worked together. Lily and myself worked together at Crane Bank. 1968 was my first working day, the 4th of October, and he joined us something in 1969. So, you know, I ate from him as well, and we worked together.
A number of communities have emerged from what was all part of Foul Bay lands, that area that went in a southwesterly direction from the bay. Prior to its development,
it was all looked like this. Rab rock, flathand dilder, siltgrass, sourgrass, and by the way, this is rock balsam. This is good for colds. You have a chest cold, you pick some of these, you go home and boil it. Today, Wednesday, you drink it, and by Friday, you're good. It's good as gone, good as gold. Rock balsam. And you will find this all around the seacoast, especially in St. Philip.
we could not speak about Foul Bay without making mention of how this community facilitated the safe passage of that big gun that later for some became a monument to early space technology, while for others it was a monument to a period in the life of Barbados that was shrouded in mystery. But it all was made possible because of my community, Foul Bay.
In 1963, we had an explosion of activity at this wonderful beach. We never expected it to happen. It was the landing of the Hart gun brought by the ship, the name John D. Page. It was landed right here on Foul Bay Beach.
But before they could come in, dynamiting had to be done. Dynamiting, if you look at the ocean in front of you, you'll notice that there is a small area, a breach more or less, in that bridge, that coral bridge on which the waves are breaking. It is there that the transport vessel came ashore. It is there that dynamiting was done. We are told that it was a rather intricate piece of engineering.
It was being blasted and opened to accommodate the John D. Page that landed the Hart gun on this beach in 1963. I was 11 years old.
You will notice now that a piece of the coral rock has been dislodged. In fact, two pieces. One has been separated from the mainland, as though Polyphemus or some Cyclops giant took one hand, pushed it that way, and pushed it that way. So you see it. The other one looks as though you took a knife and cut a piece of chocolate cake, and it has been sliced down from the body of the cliff.
I would like my cameraman to focus out to sea. If you look, you can see the reef to my left, to my right, but in the center is where you call the channel, where the smooth water is. It was never like that. But this is the rock that my father and others sat on, this same rock. We sat on to see the landing of the equipment that time. But fortunately or unfortunately, they never brought it off during the daylight. The only thing that came off in the daylight was the forklifts, and maybe, I think, 2 D9s and a D7 Caterpillar that was used to dig down, to pull it to Paragon. And I will show you that as the program go on. But that channel was open to accommodate the John D. Page. And it served a beautiful purpose up to today. For me to explain the marks used of that, you have to be in the sea, because there's the point there, you go around the point, go in a northeasterly direction, and there's a mark on the land that when you see that, you turn back right, come back in a southeasterly direction to get through the channel. If you see the light color of water, if you look good, you see that's how it is run. You go northeast, and then you turn back southeast to come through the channel. That's how the channel runs. And by coming back in, you do it on the reverse. You go one way, and you do it on the reverse, coming back in the other way. So that becomes a useful channel for all fishermen, especially ones that come in the oysters that come on the inside of the reef. They will come out here, and then they will jump through this channel. Otherwise, you leave oysters, you have to go wrong bow bed to come on the outside. But that's the pathway for the John D. Page that bring the harp gun to Barbados in 1963.
And it all happened right here on Foul Bay Beach, believed to be the heaviest object ever moved across a beach in Barbados. As we are here on the escarpment, let us continue to follow Berkey as he details the path taken, showing how it was transported outside of Foul Bay community.
Here we are pointing out part of what we call the gun road. That's the gun that was down Paragon that was landed at Foul Bay. If you look north in a northerly direction, west of the Mile Tree, that is where it passed. These houses were not here. So it passed right across here. This house wasn't here. Right across here, there's a wall structure there, green in color. That wasn't there. Right across that ground, and the man that used to work on the old man named Evans Fields, used to call it Pappy. He had potatoes planted in the ground and they dig them up, and that caused a row. And he cussed like a pirate, so you can imagine the expressions that went down. They got all my so-and-so potatoes. And my family house is just beyond that where those coconut trees are, and it passed to the west of my family house. Right across where you call now Johnson Development and Ocean City, right through down into Penny Hole, Greenpoint, Penny Hole, down to Paragon. So this is the track on this area that you can see. As I said, these houses wasn't here, but later on in the program, I will show you further down what we will call the rocks, the gun road, on the way to Paragon.
The barrels were moved more than 2.5 miles to Paragon near Foul Bay.
This is the path that it took when it came off the beach. Up this hill, it was a lot steeper, but it was being blasted down to accommodate the pulling of the nozzles and all the other equipment up this hill. It came up this Foul Bay hill, up this hill, right down this path.
Having gotten them up to the top of this area here, this plateau area, they then looked at where they would take it. First of all, you must realize that as you look further to your left, the area was not as it is now. Headings, the home, agricultural station, rices, those plantations dominated the landscape. There were a number of sugar plantations here, the three I've mentioned, and others going further down.
And if you follow my footsteps, you got an idea in the route in which it took through Foul Bay village on the way to Paragon via Ocean City, present Ocean City, Greenpoint, the old time Penny Hole, which we call Gemswick now. This is the path of which it took. It couldn't have gone there because that's a gully over there. They then go down to come back up when they have level tracks. Right away down this way, right away down this way. And as you see in the distance, there's people, two folks walking, coming down there. That is the path it took to go up the hill, to go across where I showed you earlier. That is the path which it took. This way, up the hill, down, as I said, to Foul Bay village. Present Ocean City, Greenpoint, Penny Hole, which is now Gemswick, on the way to Paragon. I'm making my way back down the hill and show you exactly where it landed, where the John D. Page came in and dropped the front. It was a flat bottom vessel, and where all the equipment come off on the sand in the surf down the beach. This is the turntable at the bottom of the hill. This is continuation up the hill to where I showed you a couple seconds ago. As I said, the hill was steeper than this. It had been blasted down to this level, so it would make it easier to pull the equipment up the hill. I don't know if the camera could turn that way. It was landed at that time. There wasn't these trees here. All this was cleared. All this was cleared. It was landed in the surf beyond the trees on the sand, and it was pulled in a straight line. Straight the line, the better it would have been for a pulling situation. I will take you down on the sand itself now and show you the surf and the point over there, so you can see the top of the beach and the bottom of my beautiful beach, Foul Bay, that made history in 1963. If you look out to see where I'm pointing, that's the channel. That's where the John D. Page came in, and it came right here. Right up to shore, it was a flat bottom vessel. The front open, and all the equipment came to the front onto the beach. I must also say to you, when they were pulling one of the nozzles up the hill, the first nozzle up the hill, the second one was on the sand, and the hawser broke. And the weight of it and the speed it came back down the hill with, it struck the one behind it and knocked it right back into the surf. So you can imagine the force it came back down the hill, because remember, it was on train lines. It was on trail lines from here to Paragon. You put them down 150 feet, pull it that distance, take it these ones and put it ahead, pull it that distance, take it that one, put it ahead, take it that distance. But I remember when that hawser popped, one of the guys was in this way and it took his shirt clean off and did not touch him. It took his shirt clean off and did not touch him. Otherwise, there would be more than one casualty, because they did have one. When the John D. Page was up there and George Ferguson boat launch was, they were working in tandem with one another, the sea rolled and squeezed the two boats together, and a guy was between them. I was introduced to, hopefully, to Mr. George Greenwich, that was one of the helpers from here, that saw that was up there, and he jumped for life. But the other guy didn't get away, and they brought him shore in a body bag. He was one of the American soldiers, or personnel, I should say. I don't know if it was a soldier, American personnel. But there's two guys that were employed. George Hardin, he is now deceased, and George Greenwich, he is still alive. But that's basically, in a nutshell, the landing of the Hartgun at Foul Bay Beach in 1963.
The guns had arrived in Barbados. The McGill HAARP project was a goal.
And so it came to pass right here in Foul Bay. The story of the High Altitude Research Project will be detailed in another series. Foul Bay is no ordinary community. It has played its part on the world stage, and its ink has flooded history's page. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Thanks for your time. Here is wishing you a peaceful and productive week ahead.